We're starting off high.
We can get a two fools agree on that one. Oh, by the way, look, we got the wide shot. Ah!
There was you had accountability. Now what I can
Now all you need is a podcast and a YouTube channel.
No, not even.
Where give me the money. Show me the money.
Apparently there's a Foolproof raid.
Shoot the J. Shoot it. Live on Facebook.com/Foolproof Entertainment Network. I need you on Twitter. I need you to repost the Facebook pages.
To raise a human before I would
Trust a human to raise back wolves.
before I would trust a pack of humans to raise a wolf.
Right. I hear you. Yo, what up, fools? Welcome to another edition of Do Fools Agree. As always, I'm your host, Michael Reggie, here with my main man, Clifford Jordan Jennings.
What's happening?
What's up? What's happening? So we were talking a little bit before the show, and I was letting Mr. Jennings know that his godson was on fire on Sunday. Scored like 8 points in the first 3 minutes, and had gotten to the point where he hit, I guess you could call it a reverse layup, because he dribbled under the hoop and just tossed it up behind him and it went in. And then we were discussing the fact that the game ended up being like 18-8 after that hot start, because they play in a league where they don't really, I mean, what were you saying, a light foul league, and they're
like they don't allow the kids to go for clean steals, like being aggressive on defense. So as opposed to always calling a foul, you'll get jump balls to make it more even for both teams to be able to have an opportunity. But that's just with him growing up, you know, like he's in
it's a rec league. It's a rec league for 9-year-olds.
Right. I was about to say it's like a pre-elementary league, because even in elementary school, when you're on the basketball team, it's a little more.
Well, and even like when we were in school, like school sports started at what, like 4th, 5th grade? 4th grade, 5th grade. So he's about that age, but his school doesn't have them. So he doesn't have like school teams yet. He won't have that till he gets to middle school for the district that he's in.
Right.
So, like, this is the closest he can get is, you know, Bexley Rec or whatever. So, but, you know, we go up to, I think it's 3-1 on the season.
That's
feeling pretty good. Even the game we lost was controversial.
That was the one I was at.
According to the sidelines and the
they fucking up the scoreboard.
Teenagers at the scoreboard.
Yeah,
I recommend, Cliff. I'm going to request that you come to the playoff games and you manage the scoreboard for us.
Listen, y'all got to pay me. I know y'all got the money where it's at.
I'll pay you extra. Gotta cheat to win. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
Man.
Man, and twice my child looked up because I don't know that he ran into the kid. I actually think the kid ran into him and he got called for the foul. I'm like, bro, you ain't ever getting that call.
Right.
And we were on the north court with the two younger black dudes who officiate. And, man, I was having a good time with them the whole game.
Oh, I bet.
A-Reg had left his jersey at his mom's house, and the younger one comes over. He's like, "Man, where's Big Dog's jersey at?" I'm like, "Split parent household, man." He's like, "Say less, man. Say less." I'm like, "See, you get it."
So what was he playing in?
Just a white tee. because I didn't have any extra reversible jerseys, but I found one, so he has one now in case that happens again. But
Right.
the problem is it's a different team every year, so it's a different color. So he has a red one, which would not have helped us.
I know that nigga probably growing out of shit in 5 minutes.
But I also buy them like 2 sizes big when I get them. Like,
okay.
The next one, the navy blue one I bought, could fit me.
For real?
Like, it would be tight across my chest, but I could wear it.
Cause y'all trying to suffocate my little guy out there in that
in his normal jersey.
That Schmeedy and he got on. That's probably why he always walking. I'm like, why you walking out there?
I can't breathe.
Get a full breath in. Cause y'all got a training jersey on him.
He was hating on me today, so I gave him the option because our rule here is, at least every other day you have to have 20, 30 minutes of exercise before you can go do video games or whatever.
Right.
And so he had practice on Wednesday, and I gave him the option. I'm like, do you want to do your physical activity on Thursday or Friday? And, of course, he said Friday. And so I showed up after school with a basketball in hand. I'm like, all right, do you want to go hit the weights or hit the bag at home, or do you want to work on some basketball here outside? My little dude was out there for 30 minutes shooting layups and free throws.
I know that's right. Shoot.
And he can finally shoot a layup coming from the left side on the left side. So there you go. He still crosses it over to his right hand, though.
Wait till he learns that wrist control and he can turn it over as he gets to the...
We've worked on that. That's we do work a drill like that is more on the reverse layup coming under the hoop.
I'm a little guy. I had to have those.
Yeah, you had to have that quick ball.
Use that rim. Use that rim as defense.
Get out of here.
Or a block or whatever.
Oh, so you got any inadvertence to get us going tonight?
I had some things I was thinking about. I had a question. I can't remember what the question was. But I saw something on, I don't know if it was Instagram or YouTube or one of them. And it was that younger white dude that be always talking about how he thinks we live in a circuit board. Okay. You know what I'm talking about? He has like Macklemore-ish hair and a beard. Yeah. He's blondish, sandy blondish. But he was basically showing different cities, both ancient and modern, and the setup of the buildings and how it's different pieces on a motherboard. Okay. And I've heard things in the past that where it's supposed to be just energy, harnessed energy for those beyond us or whatever. And looking at the stuff, it is very hard to argue what he's saying, right? And immediately it got me thinking, well, if that's the case, then first of all, just the wrapping my head around it was deep, right? Because to have something that you're giving enough experience to, but that thing is just there for a purpose, right? Yeah. Your purpose is just to power my socket, to charge my ethereal phone, Well,
and if you want to,
you shouldn't have a purpose other than, but you can still have fulfillment in your, your travels
in your serving of your purpose. Well, that kind of takes what you're talking about, and I know it's not the exact same thing, but what it's doing is reminding me of the conversation around the galaxies and neurons, and how if you look at the galaxy or you look at the universe and how all the stars interact and move around, and then you look at the human brain in terms of how the neurons fire across all of that, it feels similar in that. And then that also ties back to if we're the neurons that are firing inside of some bigger or all-powerful or whatever being's brain, like, it is interesting to think that we can have our own life, our own experiences, but still be part of the greater, the greater cosmic force.
You know what I mean? Like, and it could, so it's almost like, what's that Russian doll?
The Russian nesting dolls?
Yeah, like, it's like that. Like,
well, and if you believe in simulation theory, that's exactly what it is that civilization grows to a point where it can create artificial universes, and then those artificial universes create to a point where they create their own artificial universe, and the likelihood that we are the prime universe that is the first one to create AI and artificial intelligence and artificial universes is like 1 in 67 billion.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's why I'm kind of like, let them niggas land in New Jersey. Like, stop fucking bothering them and let them land one time, and it might be one of us from the future.
Right.
Like, y'all niggas about to fuck shit up. I want y'all to know that right now. So you better rewind, back it off, because y'all we did this. We did this. I'm trying to let you.
I am loving the reels that are like, okay, so we shifted from the Star Trek timeline to the Firefly timeline. Or we shifted from the Star Trek timeline over to the Mass Effect Reapers timeline. Like, which one are we in?
I don't trust none of them. I
mean, that's the point. You're not supposed to trust any of them.
I bet they changing shit like a fucking TV channel.
Right? Well, and I mean,
as we speak.
That is the bleeding over into parallel universes. You know, that could be the explanation for the Mandela effect. We've jumped timelines so many times that people have different recollections of shit. Which I love that shit. That shit just entertains me because it's like, when did the timeline shift? Or is it always continuously shifting? Are they changing little variables in the past, the butterfly affected, to see what happens to the future?
Right. They got their foot stuck on the gas, and it's just cycling through the gears.
This person makes a left turn instead of a right, and they're still around, and they become the next, I don't know.
Listen, we got to be, if it is like that and it's just ever changing, we got to be in fifth gear right now, boy.
Yeah, it does feel like the rate of change has accelerated. I mean, you even look at it like looking at it versus recorded history. Like from city-states that developed around like big bodies of water and farmland to, I mean, a true global society where you can go anywhere at any time to do anything, really. It's just nuts. And that's all taken place in like the last, I don't know, 50 years. I mean, true globalization and true like partnership across nations, etc. Like, even though we declare China and Russia as adversaries, like, we still do business with them on the regular. Like, 100 years ago, you couldn't have said that.
Right.
That these two nations on opposite sides of the world. I mean, 200 years ago, the U.S. wasn't even a thing, so, or 300 years ago, so there you go. Now, 3,000 years ago, it was part of ancient Egypt.
That depends on who you ask.
That's true. I don't know. I saw another video about how they found Egyptian hieroglyphics somewhere in the Grand Canyon, and that shit has been covered up. Mm-hmm. Rita, I have a mission for you the next time you go.
Right. I heard that they had found like the biggest sarcophagus ever is here of African
like African origin.
And that's why I say it depends on who you ask, because some people may say this came before that.
Right. And everybody was exiled, and now it was a race to get back to it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, anything's possible.
Everybody would know it was here, at that point.
Right. And the people in power would know more than anybody, which is why queens and kings sent expeditions this way. Like, yeah, why don't you go explore?
Right.
But go that way because I know what's over there.
Go get the prize country.
Right.
Uh-huh. That's why that shit
the Reach
video
says, the Reach says she has not yet found any hieroglyphs in the Grand Canyon.
That's because you gotta go off. You gotta go off trail. It might be dangerous. That mission might be dangerous, my Reach. I don't know if you got the equipment or anything like that. Because ain't nobody gonna be able to come get you. And I trust and believe if you need airlifted out of there, they probably gonna get rid of you before you touch the ground.
They find you.
She's seen too much. Get rid of her. They just place you back down on the trail. That's the only reason we know it'd be foul play, because they place you back too far, and we calculate the time.
The time how long it should have taken her to get.
She'd be at 167 miles by then. They put her all the way back on mile 96. They thought she was an old broad.
It's a trap.
You know what I'm saying? Then that's how we know that she found some shit. She found some shit.
So you were circling back to, I think you were going to say a video I sent you. And is it the one where there's different versions of the same cities, and then there are also cities that never existed, but they could have existed, like at the what was it, built into Mount Everest or some shit?
Mm-hmm. And the reason, and it tripped me out because on another Instagram scroll, I had seen a separate video altogether, and it was about I guess, I don't know, some excavation that happened, and they found like a whole building in the side of a mountain, but it was like old. It wasn't like modern. It was like an old structure. But I was just thinking to myself, like, that
feels like it is plausible, even though we don't like talk about structures like that. But like especially older fantasy novels all talk about stuff like that, like the grand city that was built into the mountain, like
right,
like stories about dwarves and those kind of things that live within the mountain. They had to originate somewhere.
Right. And I've always heard people say that nothing is, what's the word? Like, nothing is original.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and they always say these motherfuckers ain't that creative. And I was just watching something the other day. I can't remember what it was, but it was like a place in the TV show, or it was a cartoon. Was it a cartoon? I can't remember, but when I saw it, I was like, that's real. I was like, that's like, I was able to name the place in the cartoon, and I was
what
like,
it was based on.
Okay, so they're not making shit up, right? They're even using places that exist currently in their fictional stories.
Yeah.
And it's like, what all is actually right in front of your face that you don't even recognize?
No doubt.
Like, what all truth
but it's
is,
all
like,
but
are
it's
they
all
telling
based
you?
on real stuff. Yeah.
Because if you don't have an imagination to be able to create that in your own world, it has to be something you've seen.
Here's one for you. Every Marvel movie, most superhero movies, what do they end with? They end with the thing on the ground that is shooting the big beam into the sky and doing something, right?
Wait, what happened?
In a lot of comic book and superhero movies, like the final battle happens while there's like this big beam shooting up into the sky. Like the first Avengers was like that. I'm not gonna be able to name them off the top of my head. Actually, Hancock was kind of like that too, except I think it was a windstorm or something. But same idea, some sort of like big beam shooting into the sky and like generic enemies fly out of it or whatever. I think that that's based on either the pyramids back when they were doing what they were supposed to do, and they were bringing people down, the whole Stargate phenomena, or the Tartarian Empire. Like, that's where all that shit originated. That's why that's always such a fascination for us.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
I wish I had better examples. I will.
Right.
I'll find.
I'm sure you can be absolutely correct.
I'll shoot you a reel and show you what I'm talking about. But
right,
it's a
you
bunch
just know
of.
I'm a bad one to bring that up with. I don't know too much.
No, I got you.
That.
I got you. That's interesting though.
But that video gave me like Stranger Things vibes.
Mm-hmm. Like we're
like
because
they were like, okay,
down.
so the picture's real, but like it's not a real thing. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like the Empire State Building doesn't have a spiral staircase wrapped around it.
Right.
But the fact that it would be shown in that image is wild. And that's what led me to believe, like, well, shit, if these motherfuckers are as heavy into shit, like, you got to think, Nikola Tesla was doing shit like that back in the 1800s. Mm-hmm. And we don't know what history they covered up to say that he hadn't got that from a previous century or generations.
It's all attributed to him because we don't know where he got it from.
Exactly. So my whole thing is, what the fuck was that? It scared the fuck out of me.
That was a glitch in the Matrix.
Oh, that was my phone. That shit scared the fuck out of me. What was I saying? Oh, so we don't know how much information that they actually know or whatever the case may be. So if we know that everything is just a bunch of atoms bouncing off of each other, how do we know that they haven't found a way to reconstruct like Tesla towers to be able to like take shit out of shit? You know what I mean? Like,
and that's one of the big things that sits behind, and I know it gets on your nerves and you get bored with it and annoyed with it. That's one of the big things that sits behind like UFO disclosure, is because we have reverse engineered 0-point energy and renewable energy and unlimited energy sources, and that shit isn't being shared with the public.
Right.
And really that would change the world.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right there. And that's why I'd be more interested to find out shit like that than I would.
Like aliens. No, I get it.
Right.
But reverse engineering from, we could call it non-human intelligence or aliens or whatever, but who knows? That reverse engineering could be from ancient man-made or earth structures.
Right.
Going back to the pyramids, going back to Tartaria, going back to whatever. Somebody has that information. That information, when you conquer somebody, you may destroy their legacy, but you hold on to the shit that made you worried.
Right. No, that's facts. And I feel like if you could do something like that, like if you had the power to do something like that, that would make perfect sense, because if you're dispensing or like spreading out the atoms from touching, then that staircase no longer exists.
Right.
You could walk right through it and not feel anything.
Well, if you're vibrating at the right frequency,
that everything comes back together and you snap a picture, you could see a perfectly visible staircase around that motherfucker. So my whole thing is, what else could that, if that's a possibility, and if these motherfuckers got CERN and shit cracking portals, I can't say that you haven't figured that out as well.
Well, here's the other side of it too, and it goes back to, we've talked about it in the past, is like vibrations and frequencies. Like the world around you could look entirely different if you were vibrating at a different frequency, because they always talk about if you were vibrating at the right frequency, you could put your hand through this solid table sitting in front of me, right?
If you were vibrating at the same frequency as the table, right?
The reverse could absolutely be true as well, where we can't see stuff because we're not vibrating at the right frequency. That's the whole belief with, there are aliens that are here right now, and what we see is like glitches from them utilizing technology that isn't, I don't know, not stable or whatever, that brings them into our frequency periodically. Whereas if we were all vibrating at the same frequency, like we would see them everywhere.
Right.
But it's only when they're not vibrating at their normal frequency that we can see them.
Right.
And there was a lot of, there's quite a few episodes of like Star Trek and those kind of things that talk about similar alien species that that's the result of it, or they operate outside of our our concept of time, and we can only see them when they slow things down for themselves. But otherwise, they're moving too fast for us to see.
I mean, I wouldn't listen.
That shit always fascinates me, man.
I ain't never bumped into a motherfucker yet.
Right.
You know, like you just invisible, somebody invisible, you just feel a shoulder bump you.
Right. All right. Well, what else you got? Anything?
Yeah, no, I don't have anything. I don't.
All right. So the one topic that I did throw out there, and I titled the episode this, was Executive Order Palooza. Just talking through. So I'm going to read through the different, and we'll stop and chat on anyone that we want to chat about.
Executive Order Palooza. What's that?
So executive orders that Trump has signed in his first week in office. And a lot of them are shit that he promised on the campaign trail, so they're not surprising at all, right?
Right.
There are a couple that are interesting, though. And even the ones that he promised to sign on the campaign trail, there's been some, I'm not going to say, well, I guess one was controversial in the fact that a federal judge immediately stepped in and said, you can't do that. The other ones, you know, just given our audience and, you know, our friends of the show and family, obviously some of the things about transgender rights, those kind of things, all kind of, you know, we'll hit on them and kind of move through them. But the first one up, which I found very interesting, and I don't know that this is the first one he signed. It's just the first one in the article that I've got pulled up from, I think it's from Newsweek. Mm-hmm. Donald Trump has declassified the JFK, Robert Kennedy, and MLK assassinations. So are we finally going to get it in writing that we killed all three of these motherfuckers?
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, that would kind of be smart on Trump's behalf, right?
Yeah, because it furthers his narrative of the deep state.
And then beyond that, like...
it shows that it's a real thing.
I don't know. That could go a couple different ways now that I think about that. What does he have to gain from that is my question.
I think he gains the narrative that he wants to gain, which is that we have been infiltrated by the deep state, and he's going to clean house to make sure that that's not the case anymore. Now, personally, I feel like that's a problem because I think he is clearing the way for him to become a dictator. That's just how I feel about it.
That could however,
it definitely would support his narrative of the deep state having been embedded in our country for a long time.
Right.
And so it will rally his supporters behind him because they will finally have proof that the deep state is real.
But right. Like, that's not, I mean,
who's arguing it? Great
only
question.
People that are arguing that are the deep state. That's the proof that they're real, motherfucker. Nobody else is arguing. If a motherfucker argue you on if some people control some shit behind the scenes, you gotta be like,
so who you working for?
Who the fuck is this nigga? Who's that? That's what I'm saying. Like, this is some crazy shit to me.
Oh man. All right.
Hold on, give me 5 seconds.
All right, we'll give you 5 seconds. So, I mean, he's given the State Department 15 days, I think, to present a plan for how they could release that information. You know, my curiosity is, would it actually change anybody's opinion on it? Or is it going to be, we'll release all this stuff, but it's going to be so heavily redacted that it's not going to matter? Like, personally, that's what I think it'll be, is that they'll release this stuff, but it'll be redacted to the point where it doesn't add anything to the conversation.
Wait, what?
That's just talking about the assassinations and investigations into them.
Yeah, I'm trying to see what's happening there, baby.
All right.
We all know the truth.
We did it.
Right.
All right. The next one, or the next bucket of ones is around technology. So he created an AI action plan as well as a review of an AI executive order issued by President Biden. So most of his executive orders were just to rescind President Biden's executive orders. But this one is targeting AI safety measures. The order is intended to certain existing AI policies and directives that act as barriers to American AI innovation. So basically what he's saying is he wants to deregulate AI. So right now there are a bunch of rules in place, like you have to be able to show that it doesn't cause harm, that it doesn't do X, Y, and Z, and he wants to get rid of those rules. I don't know how I feel about that. I agree that it's stifling AI innovation. Maybe that's some shit that needs to be stifled, though. I don't know.
Man, that's what I said, though. As soon as them sex dolls come out, you're going to see dicks getting bit off left and right. I'm trying to tell you. You're going to see dicks get just Lewinsky. Them AI is going to be Lewinsky and niggas left and right.
The second executive order that's technology related would propose a federal regulatory framework governing the issuance and operation of digital assets, including stable coins in the United States. So basically, he wants to take over cryptocurrency.
Take it over how?
He wants the government involved, and he wants it to be government regulated, which is kind of anti-crypto. Which is interesting, just given how many...
That's because they want to be able to rob you in the dark.
Yeah, no doubt. It's interesting given how many tech bros he's, like, close with these days. Let's see. He designated Ansar Allah, the Houthis, as a foreign terrorist organization. Okay. That's Middle East stuff. He targeted DEI initiatives, so he basically rescinded all federal DE&I programs. So diversity, equity, and inclusion. I mean, here's the flip side of DE&I, is having been in multiple companies that have, DE&I frameworks and all of that. They don't actually do anything. They don't actually mean anything. They mean you take some courses around bias is about it.
Right.
So, I think that people who are going to take that to heart have done that work themselves. And people who aren't, don't fucking learn anything from that shit anyways. So, yeah, I understand the sentiment around it is strong. And, like, see, he wants to, make it all white supremacy again and blah, blah, blah. It never changed. Like, DE&I programs didn't stop that shit.
Right.
So, yeah. Let's see. So the first order required Secretary of Transportation and the FAA to end DEI immediately. Second executive order, terminate all discriminatory and illegal preferences, mandates, policies, programs, activities, yada, yada, yada.
What's that mean?
Basically, just he eliminated DE&I and
that was under the same umbrella.
Environmental causes from like government initiatives.
Okay.
So none of that's crazy. That all tracks with what he said on the campaign trail. Trump's first orders, a lot of his executive orders were around acting Secretary of State, Secretary of this, Secretary of that, just putting those people in place. Nothing crazy there. Let's see. Rescinded 78 Biden-era executive orders. Makes sense.
Right.
A regulatory freeze preventing bureaucrats from issuing any more regulations until Trump has full control of the government.
What's that mean now?
Means that you are not allowed to propose or add additional regulations, meaning like clean air, like you can't put any more in place. That the theory behind that is that regulations stifle American innovation and American businesses. I don't.
Okay.
I have multiple feelings about that, but whatever. A freeze on all federal hiring except in the military, which I have seen some funny videos on because a lot of Trump supporters are fit in that category and have lost their jobs or lost jobs that they thought they had because he put that order into effect.
How does that take place?
Because he stopped all hiring. So if you had just signed an offer from the federal government to have a new job, a lot of those were canceled. Why? Because we're not hiring anymore.
But wouldn't you have technically already been hired?
Not if you haven't started. Not if you haven't hit your start date yet.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're not hired.
Well, I'm just telling you the stories that I've seen on different reels and that kind of stuff. And
These motherfuckers.
I am actually well aware of people who have signed an offer letter and then were basically, I'm going to say, fired before they started, but the position was no longer available. We'll put it that way. A requirement that all federal workers return to full-time in-person work. So no more work from home for the feds.
I mean, with that I can understand that.
I mean, I personally do not agree with in office versus work from home. Like, do what makes sense for you as long as you are performing. And if you can't manage someone's performance remotely, that makes you a shitty manager.
Well, no, I don't think it's anything about that. I feel like my biggest concern, especially from a federal level, is what do you have access to?
And where are you?
Yeah, like
that's fair.
I don't know where you're at home. I don't know who's walking past your computer. Like, you're dealing with shit that we can't get out.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair.
I can't trust you at your house.
I think that's fair.
But I mean, for all that other bullshit, yeah, no, I agree 1,000. But once you've reached a certain level and you have access to certain information, it's like, unless I can film you, and who's going to then monitor the film to make sure there wasn't a breach somewhere?
Well,
just come back.
I think you're looking at that from, to your point, like someone who has access to sensitive information. I would bet that 85% of federal workers do not have access to quote unquote federal or sensitive information.
Right.
So I don't disagree with you in the case of sensitive information and PII, but outside of that, you got a bunch of people who are reviewing grants that were submitted publicly. I don't know. Not being fully aware of like all the different federal jobs out there. Right. I mean, you got, yeah.
That's me as well. Don't get me wrong. I just start thinking like I start thinking like the defense supply center and shit like that. Like, and I'm thinking, well, okay, that kind of makes sense. Like, maybe my mom shouldn't have been in the house all day doing her job. Shit.
I happen to know somebody that works for the Defense Supply Center that had a laptop stolen out of their car a couple months ago. Yeah.
But I'm sure you can't get into that bitch.
Oh, I'm sure. And I'm sure they can wipe it remotely and all that kind of shit.
Right.
Yeah. My hope was that it was low-jacked and maybe they'd finally catch the motherfucker that's been breaking into cars around here, but...
Not at the Defense Supply Center.
No such luck.
They supply and shit. They don't give a fuck about intel. Let me transfer you to a different department, sir. Hold on 1 minute. Meanwhile, it's Jack Bauer with 24 seconds. Like, no, I need to talk to...
Where's the bomb?
1 second, sir. If we get disconnected, call back and the extension.
There is no extension. This is my personal cell phone number because I'm working from home.
Right.
Next one was directing agencies to address the Americans' cost of living crisis, which has no teeth behind it and doesn't actually mean anything. Withdrawing from the Paris Climate Agreement, which he did last time, so no huge news there. Let's see. A directive to the federal government ordering the restoration of freedom of speech and preventing government censorship of free speech going forward. That feels good until he gets to decide what counts as free speech and what doesn't.
Right. But then you go back into the guides of the regulating free speech, and then you get enemies that were on your side.
Right. And then you have a directive to the federal government ending the weaponization of the government against the political adversaries of the previous administration, as we've seen. So that's basically to say that the previous administration went after him. Now, if he says that, does that also impact his ability to go after political opponents? Because if that's the case, I'm all for it.
I'm sure that's the case. And if that is the case, you gotta admit that motherfucker was the bigger guy.
I completely agree.
Because Biden went OD trying to get Trump locked up after his presidency. For him to be like, you know what? I'm cool. We just gonna put this in place so that shit doesn't take place in the future. That's the bigger man there.
It is, until you account for the fact that he did try to overthrow the government. But
I don't know if it was.
Speaking of which, him trying to overthrow the government, he pardoned 1,500 people that were convicted of crimes on January 6th of 2021.
He better have.
Yeah, no shit. Let's see. Immigration. All right. So signed an executive order seeking to end birthright citizenship. That one was immediately shot down by a federal judge.
Yeah. Are you fucking crazy?
Part of the U.S. Constitution.
Are you fucking crazy?
He also signed an order designating Mexican drug cartels and other organizations to be foreign terrorist organizations. I don't disagree with that. But I think what it does is it allows him to utilize the military if he wants to, versus utilizing like the DEA and the FBI to go after those people.
Yeah, because we know that's not
working out for anybody. They're corruptible.
And beyond corruptible, they know that. Listen, those cartels have stepped their game up tremendously over the years. Those are military groups.
Right, or at least
no FBI agent is wanting to go up against that.
At least paramilitary. Now Trump can order a drone strike to just go in and take them out.
Right.
Yeah. Let's see. He declared a national emergency at the southern border. I'm pretty sure he did that last time.
At the southern border?
Mexico.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he did do that last time.
I'm pretty sure. He also reinstated his Remain in Mexico policy, which basically says asylum seekers need to stay in Mexico until their cases go through, which I don't disagree with.
Right.
Let's see. That one isn't anything. All right, climate. So we already talked about he withdrew from Paris, the Paris Climate Accord. He withdrew from the World Health Organization, which
what's that mean exactly?
Means we are no longer a member country of that. So that means that we don't have to share data with them. We don't have to listen to their recommendations, etc. I'm sure that is all fallout from COVID, because he was blamed for how we handled the COVID crisis, and a lot of the recommendations from that came from Dr. Fauci and from the WHO.
Right.
Okay. Let's see. Trump issued another order declaring a national energy emergency, which allows him to bypass certain environmental regulations. So there have been plenty of environmental regulations that prevent us from like drilling in Alaska or fracking or whatever. This basically clears the way for that, which again, personally, I would love to see us move towards clean energy because it's out there and we can do it. And I'd love to see solar panels that are more than 20% efficient, that are only that inefficient because of the government has decided that that's the number so that they can't compete with big oil.
Right.
But whatever. Tariffs and taxes. So let's see. Trump fulfilled his campaign promise to impose steep tariffs on countries like Canada and Mexico, saying that as of February 1st, there will be a 25% tariff on imports from both countries. That's going to hurt the American consumer. I know that, he talked a lot about tariffs on the campaign trail, so he's just doing what he said. Those costs always get passed on. No business is going to take that hit. The hope is that those businesses try to source it from an American company instead. I don't know that that's going to happen. Let's see. An executive order saying that a global minimum corporate tax deal supported by the Biden administration, negotiated with over 100 countries, has no force or effect in the U.S. without an act of Congress. So basically saying that whatever corporate tax deal that was, I have no idea. Which is interesting because I'm sure that's like taxing corporations across nations so that everybody gets their cut. Let's see. Trump signed a pair of executive orders to boost oil and gas drilling. That ties into what we already talked about. The second order is a review of policies that burden the development of domestic energy resources and eliminates Biden-era electrical vehicle mandates. So a lot of the reason why you saw a spike in electrical vehicles over the last, 10 years is because the U.S. government was basically mandating electric vehicles. Right now, it's back to square one on EVs.
Right.
Which, having worked on a program that was designed to convert a fleet to electric, it's a pain. And honestly, our infrastructure couldn't handle if everybody went electric anyways.
Right.
Like, there's not enough power in the grid to be able to charge how many ever cars are on the road.
Right.
But we deal with the energy crisis first, and then you can deal with the EV crisis. So he could be clearing the way for a Democratic president or someone else down the line to say, nah, we got to make this switch now. I don't know. We'll see. TikTok. On the social media front, the president signed an executive order extending the deadline for TikTok's parent company to divest from the app. The app went offline for a few hours, but came back. Speaking of which, I got something to talk to you about after the show.
Okay.
All right. Transgender rights and DEI efforts. We already hit on most of those. But the executive order will use clear and accurate language and policies that recognize women are biologically female and men are biologically male. There's also wording in that says at conception, like what sex you identify with. The problem with is at conception, everybody is female.
All right.
Because we don't become male until like week 6 or week 8.
All right.
So that one's interesting. It's just funny because he's an idiot. Gutting federal programs aimed at diversity, equity, inclusion. Let's see. Trump directed the White House Budget Office and the Justice Department to coordinate the termination of all discriminatory programs. Back to DEI. Renaming the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America.
I mean,
Mexico is part of America. Hate to break it to people. It is part of North America, in fact. And the Gulf of Mexico or the Gulf of America sits between North America and South America. So I don't really see an issue with this one because somebody can just come in and change it at a later date. Like
right.
Obama did with Mount McKinley and renamed it Mount Denali. And Trump changed it back to Mount McKinley.
I don't know anything about it. I don't know.
You don't know our U.S. geography? You don't know Mount McKinley? Come on, dog.
Where's that at?
Oh, man. All right. The president also signed an order directing the Secretary of State to champion core American interests and always put America and American citizens first. Again, I don't know what the fuck that means other than it looks pretty on paper.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Trump...
Sounds like a lot of Band-Aids for the people.
Right. None of these have any actual action for the people. Let's see. Trump ordered agencies responsible for the U.S.'s foreign development assistance programs to immediately pause new obligations and disbursements of development assistance funds. So basically cutting our funding to third world countries is what that sounds like. It is the policy of the United States that no further United States foreign assistance shall be dispersed in a manner that is not fully aligned with foreign policy of the United States president. Which I think makes sense. Like, I think the president has to sign off on any aid that's sent out anyways. So I don't know that actually changes anything. The creation of DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency under our boy Elon. That tool. Who was caught, doing Nazi salutes, whatever. Fucking dude. I know you have. I feel like you're more positive on Elon than I am. I do not.
I don't really care for him, but I mean, I
think he is the worst of the tech bros. Like, I think Zuckerberg is just a fucking nerd who thinks he's cool, so he's gotten cocky, but he's just as much trash. And Bezos kind of just stays out of the limelight. Like, those other two are the ones that get the attention.
Right.
Let's see. Although Ramaswamy is not with the Department of Government Efficiency and may actually be running for governor of Ohio, our great state.
What?
Uh-huh. Because apparently he's from Cincinnati.
Oh, for real?
I believe so.
I don't know how I feel about that.
I don't either. Other ones were around security clearances. The other revoked security clearances for 50 people who signed a letter saying that a news story about Hunter Biden's laptop was part of a Russian disinformation campaign. So he revoked those people's security clearance. Fine. Flags on Inauguration Day. Flags on Inauguration Day must always be flown at full mast instead of half mast.
Why?
Because his were at half mast because of Jimmy Carter's funeral.
Okay.
Let's see. Up until the last few decades, presidents typically signed few or no executive orders in their first week. Trump, to this point, how many total has he signed? I don't know, but there was a lot there. I think it said that he was on path to sign like 100 in total.
Goodness, I mean, I don't even know what that means. Well, like, this is all a headache to me.
Half of them don't mean anything, is the thing.
Right.
The other half were things that he promised on the campaign trail, which, again, have no teeth because they're executive orders. But it's interesting. There wasn't anything there that I was immediately scared of. Like, I understand the concern around the U.S. will only recognize male and female and doesn't recognize transgender, and they are trying to say at birth, like, what you were, not what you identify as, but what you are biologically born as.
Right.
Which I don't agree with, but at the end of the day, does that, other than it hurting your feelings, what impact does that actually have? I don't know. So if someone in the chat, or Sam, if you chime in at some point, like, what is the actual impact of that to your day-to-day life? Does it keep you from getting certain medications? I don't know. But, I mean, other than that, there wasn't anything on there that I was, like, scared of. I don't like the fact that we're back in Big Oil's pocket. But, fine. Like, that tracks with who he is and what he is. I think the oils are just as much cartels as I think Big Oil is just as much of a cartel as, the Mexican drug cartels are.
Oh, I agree.
I did see a reel of, I think it was a congressional hearing with the Boeing CEO, talking about how much money the Boeing CEO makes and how it doubled over the course of like 2 years. He went from like 20 million to 46 million or some shit. They were like, and meanwhile, Americans are dying, whistleblowers are being killed, and like this senator went after this dude. And
what'd he say?
He was basically just, I mean, honestly, he didn't say shit. Because what the fuck is he going to say? Nothing that incriminates himself, I guarantee you that. I'm guaranteeing you he's media trained. Oh, man. So that is the first week of 2025.
It's snowing in Destin.
Dude, we had people that were snowed in Houston and New Orleans this week.
You know they weren't snowed in. You could kick that out the way with some boots. They just was like, fuck it. We don't know what to do. We ain't seen this shit before.
He went outside and put like a yardstick in. They had a legit 10 inches of snow in New Orleans. And they don't have the infrastructure to deal with it.
Right.
I think that airport was still shut down today, and it was above freezing the last 2 days. That's crazy. It's wild out there, man. It's wild.
Yeah, New Orleans is crazy because when that snow dries, you can potentially have another flood on your hands.
Right.
The way your state set up. But yeah, I mean, you know what it is. Like, it's really the fact that, like we said, these places aren't prepared for weather like that. So,
right.
10 inches?
Yeah.
We're snow whores up here. We like, that little ass shit. That little ass 10 inches you didn't drop.
Dude, we haven't had 10 inches of snow in probably 8 years.
I don't think that's right.
Dude, we hardly got any the last 3 or 4.
Yeah, we haven't had much.
And even this year, what we got was, like 4 inches so far? The most at one time? I mean, shit, the snow we got this week, I didn't even have to shovel.
Yeah, it hadn't really been snowing.
No. It's been cold. It's been cold. Oh, man. All right, you got anything else?
No, I don't.
All right. Well, do us a favor. Like, share, subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Tell an enemy. Tell them to troll. And check us out on all social media at Foolproof Net. That's our handle on all social media. And I say that because I've found a solution to our clip out problem, which I'm going to talk about to Mr. Jennings after the break. So, with all of that, peace out, fools.